The alien woman made the human man an offer he couldn't refuse. The human man froze. Cole Ramsey had negotiated with rogue asteroid miners, talked down a Martian prince with a flamethrower fetish, and once brokered a peace deal between two Earth factions arguing over punctuation in their constitution. Nothing, however, had prepared him for the crystalline landing pad of Vehlora. He squinted through his visor as light refracted from the massive angular structures that shimmered like frozen lightning. It felt like stepping into a chandelier designed by a sentient jellyfish, with a taste for excessive sparkle. The gravity was slightly lower than Earth's, which made him feel both majestic and mildly floaty, like a dignified balloon in a diplomat suit. His AI drone, Whip, hovered beside him, cloaked in its usual attitude. Cole, you realize this is a first-contact negotiation with a civilization that can bend magnetic fields with their minds, right? Try not to flirt, trip, or sneeze on anything sacred. Noted, Cole muttered, adjusting his diplomatic sash. I'll do my best to be boring and sterile, like a ceasefire treaty in PowerPoint form. PowerPoint was outlawed by the Geneva Protocols, Cole. It's considered psychological warfare. A procession approached, their footsteps whisper quiet on the crystal surface. 12 Vehlorians in ceremonial armor the color of dusk, each with their own strange insignias glowing faintly on their skin. And at their center, walking with the calm certainty of a thunderstorm that knew it was beautiful, was her, Aven'kai. Her long ears swept elegantly back like blades folded into silk. Her eyes were silver in the way starlight pretended to be cold. She looked almost human. Distressingly so, save for the fact that every cell in her seemed to hum with restrained kinetic poetry. She raised a hand, and the procession halted in unison like they'd rehearsed it during centuries of artistic wars. Cole Ramsey, she said, you wear your name as though it offends. I've been told it's better than wearing it as a cape. Silence. Then, one of the guards blinked in what Cole dared to interpret as a suppressed laugh. Aven'kai didn't smile, but her left ear twitched upward by half a degree. Cole marked that as a possible Vehlorian chuckle. Maybe, she turned. Walk with me. Your drone may hover at a politically appropriate distance. Define appropriate. Far enough that I don't vaporize it by accident if I trip. Whip floated back 15 meters and began playing the interstellar equivalent of elevator music. They strolled beneath an archway of lattice-thin crystal vines. Holographic birds burst into simulated song overhead, each note slightly out of tune in what might have been an intentional avant-garde performance. You are not what I expected, Aven'kai said. I hear that a lot, usually right before someone signs a peace agreement or throws a shoe. You stand oddly. Earth Protocol. It's called casual alertness. It gives the impression I might lunge for a handshake or a hidden weapon. A pause? See. They stopped before a floating dais, a circular platform that adjusted its altitude based on ambient tension. It bobbed slightly higher when Aven'kai spoke. I'll not waste your time, Cole Ramsey. War has bled both our species. We've calculated projections. In 63 Earth years, total extinction probabilities reach 71.2%. I hate when peace talks begin with math, Cole muttered. I offer a union. Between you and me, it is an ancient right of bond that will enjoin our peoples. Refuse, and the conflict resumes. Cole's mouth opened, then forgot what it was supposed to say. The words spilled out as a confused cough. Wait, sorry, what? You will marry me, Aven'kai said as if asking him to hand over a pen. It is the only offer that will satisfy our council and your planetary coalition. Refuse, and within one planetary cycle, 28 new fronts will ignite. You will lose the moon bases by next solstice. Cole blinked. The dice bobbed under the weight of the moment. I thought we were going to talk treaties, territory lines, trade routes, maybe argue over who gets rights to name the next wormhole. Those things are noise. This is clarity. You say yes, we bind ourselves. No more war. We learn, we merge, we grow. Say no, and you will be remembered as the man who chose policy over peace. Whip's voice crackled faintly in his earpiece. Cole, fun fact, Vehlorian marriage rituals involve psionic fusion. So if you say yes, your thoughts won't be private anymore, including that time you tried to kiss a mirror in college. Not helping, Cole hissed. Just giving you the full picture. And honestly, she's a solid 12 on any planet. Cole looked back at Aven'kai. You're serious, and not joke. That's going to be an issue. Her head tilted slightly. Why? Because I do. A lot. Like professionally, it's a stress response. That and baking. I am unfamiliar with baking. Is it a kind of weapon? Only when I make sourdough. The air vibrated slightly. It wasn't until later he realized she had laughed, or rather she had expelled a sound approximating amusement. She stepped forward slowly. You do not need to decide this moment, but we are on the edge of a supernova. The wrong breath and everything burns. Cole exhaled. Can I at least get some kind of welcome dinner first? Maybe a commemorative mug? Your sense of ritual is disordered. That's the Earth way. We confuse the enemy until they agree with us out of sheer exhaustion. She turned and gestured to a hovering crystal orb. Your quarters have been prepared. Your drone will be monitored. Tomorrow we begin the courtship trials. Wait, courtship trials? That wasn't in the briefing. They are non-lethal. Mostly? Mostly? Aven'kai gave him a look that might have meant everything or nothing at all. Sleep well, Cole Ramsey. Tomorrow we test compatibility. Psychologically, spiritually, physically, and if necessary, via controlled plasma duel. Great, Cole mumbled as she vanished into refracted light. So, just a regular first date then. Whip hovered in close. On the bright side, her ears are statistically gorgeous. Cole rubbed his temples. I came here to negotiate peace, not become part of a cosmic rom-com. Whip rotated, displaying a heart emoji with tiny laser cannons. Plot twist. You're the leading man now. Don't screw it up, Romeo. Cole awoke to a gentle hum vibrating through the floor beneath his bed, or what passed for a bed on Vehlora. It looked like a giant floating leaf and smelled vaguely of lemon-scented moonlight. Every so often it sighed beneath him like it was disappointed he hadn't bonded with it emotionally during the night. A holographic banner above the doorway blinked into life. Courtship Trial 1, The Maze of Echoes. Breakfast optional. Survival encouraged. Cole groaned. Why is breakfast optional? That's the worst kind of warning. Whip buzzed into the room from the ceiling vent, already wearing a tiny scarf. For drama, not warmth. You slept for exactly 6 hours and 12 minutes. That's above average for humans preparing to be mentally and spiritually dissected. Thanks for the reassurance. What's the Maze of Echoes? Sounds like a tourist trap mixed with a bad therapy session. It's an ancient Vehlorian trial designed to test mental cohesion. They used to call it the Cave of Collective Screaming, but rebranded after poor visitor reviews. Cole dragged himself into the self-fitting diplomatic uniform, which somehow still managed to wrinkle itself as soon as he put it on. The corridor outside his room was filled with faint whispers. Actual whispers, not people, the walls. They repeated fragments of his own thoughts from yesterday in various tones. She's definitely out of my league. Sourdough is not a weapon. Am I developing feelings or just deeply tired? Okay, this place is worse than my freshman dorm, Cole muttered. Aven'kai met him at the entrance of the maze. She wore ceremonial armor woven from light and memory. At least, that's how Whip described it later while trying to bill Cole for emotional trauma. Ready? She asked, her tone neutral. No, Cole replied, but I've learned that readiness is a myth perpetuated by motivational posters. You must walk the maze, alone. It will confront you with reflections, distortions, regrets, and possibly images of yourself with an unflattering haircut. I already survived my 2008 phase, Cole said. Bring it on. The maze opened with a soft hiss, revealing a spiral of mirrored corridors that seemed to shift with his breath. As soon as he stepped inside, the entrance closed behind him. The light dimmed. The air hummed like a nervous orchestra. The first corridor showed him standing at a negotiation table, only it wasn't Vehlora. It was Earth. The UN dome in Geneva half destroyed, Earth leaders screaming, Vehlorian warships in the sky, himself at the center, frozen, unable to speak. The vision spoke. You could have stopped this. Wow, subtle. The vision stepped forward. Why? Hesitate. You always hesitate. In the field, in life, in love. Hey, I'll have you know I once said yes to a surprise karaoke duel on Europa without hesitation. You lost. Yes, but I did it bravely. The vision faded. The corridor bent sharply left and dumped him into what looked like a Vehlorian nursery, but empty. Toys floated. Walls pulsed gently. In the center, a figure sat, a child version of Aven'kai, ears twitching, eyes wide. You're afraid of her, the child said. I mean, yes, a little. She can vaporize things by blinking and has no sense of sarcasm. She offered you peace. She offered me marriage, Cole snapped. with a side of galactic responsibility. Forgive me if I need a minute. The child tilted her head. You hide behind jokes. I don't hide. I strategically deploy them. There's a difference. The room twisted. The child was gone. Now he stood in his own apartment on Earth, untouched for years. Photos of his family, blurred, distant, his work desk empty. A voice whispered from nowhere and everywhere. Who are you when you're not solving someone else's war? He stood in silence, jaw tight. The maze wasn't just metaphorical. It was intelligent, sentient, and irritatingly effective. Still me, he said finally. Just quieter, still figuring it out. The lights pulsed. The door ahead opened. When he emerged, covered in emotional metaphor and actual glitter-like particles that stuck to his neck, Aven'kai waited. You survived. Barely. Did anyone ever tell you your spiritual trials are weirdly passive-aggressive? You were not judged, she said. You were revealed. Well, next time I'd prefer a spa day. She began walking with him down the corridor toward what Cole hoped was an actual breakfast. Your mind is layered. Some would call it disorganized. Some call it creative. I call it curious. Also prone to absurd improvisation. Thank you. I think. The hallway opened into a garden filled with floating fruit. Some of them tried to fly away when picked. Cole gave chase to a melon with wings before realizing it was probably a trap. This is breakfast? He asked. Aven'kai nodded. Everything in this garden is edible, but some may challenge you first. So breakfast and cardio. Fantastic. Whip appeared overhead, recording everything. Note: human subject continues to interact with alien environment using wit, self-deprecation, and poor choices. Cole threw a small vibrating grape at him. Later, they sat across from each other beneath a canopy of shimmering light threads. Tomorrow's trial will test physical compatibility, Aven'kai said, biting elegantly into something that looked like a crystalline banana. Cole nearly choked on his own fruit. Define compatibility. It will involve synchronized movement, reflex calibration, and partial neural alignment. So, yoga? More like martial telepathy. Of course, why wouldn't it be? Aven'kai studied him. You don't fear me, but you fear what this means. I fear that peace comes with strings, and I'm being tied into a very elaborate, very sparkly knot. You're already in the knot. You just haven't accepted the bow. Is that a Vehlorian idiom? No, I made it up. Humor? Yell blinked. Did you just make a joke? I've been studying your tactics. Humor may be a viable bonding protocol. Cole leaned back, chewing thoughtfully. Careful. That's how it starts. Next thing you know, you'll be quoting Earth sitcoms and arguing over pizza toppings. I've reviewed your cultural exports. Pizza, confusing. It's a religion. We'll cover that later. As the garden dimmed into twilight, the strange floating trees sang a lullaby in harmonized vibrations. Cole sat beside the alien emissary he might one day call wife, or diplomatic partner, or galactic gamble. Tomorrow, he said, if I survive martial telepathy, I want pancakes. You survive the maze. You may have pancakes. Promise? Promise. Whip buzzed overhead, muttering, if this turns into a honeymoon phase, I'm filing for independence. Cole smiled. Peace apparently was going to be weird. Cole stood in what could generously be described as a dojo, though it more closely resembled the inside of a kaleidoscope, designed by a martial artist on mood stabilizers. Everything shimmered. The floor, the walls, even the air seemed to ripple like it was warming up for a fight. Hovering above the far end of the chamber was a Vehlorian instructor with no visible limbs, only a floating robe and 8 rings orbiting his body like confused planets. This, Aven'kai explained, is Master Yellen. He will guide us through Trial 2. Physical compatibility. Cole raised a hand. Define physical compatibility because I once lost a bet on Venus that involved a dance-off and a very aggressive octopus. Master Yellen's rings flared briefly, emitting a tone that Whip translated instantly. Beginner-level humor detected. Proceed with caution. Thanks, Yellen. I'll try to keep the punchlines to a safe distance. Aven'kai stepped into the center of the chamber, her body shifting into a defensive posture so smooth it looked choreographed by physics itself. Vehlorian movement-based trials test more than coordination. They measure rhythm, intuition, intent. Intent? Cole said, cautiously stepping onto the floor. Like spiritual intent? Romantic intent? Or the kind where I pretend to know what I'm doing? All of them, at once. Oh, good, he said. A multitasking disaster. My favorite flavor of chaos. Without warning, the floor lit up beneath his feet and shifted under him. Literally, it moved like a treadmill with an identity crisis. Cole stumbled, caught himself, and nearly re-lost himself to a pirouette that wasn't part of the test. Earth reflexes, unpredictable, Master Yellen buzzed. Potentially adaptive, possibly intoxicated. Totally sober, Cole said, balancing on one leg while his other foot negotiated with gravity. Just clumsy by birthright. Aven'kai twirled beside him, each step triggering light pulses that harmonized with the chamber walls. As they moved, the space responded, growing brighter, warmer, more resonant. "This is a bonding dance," she said, spinning behind him with zero warning. It was once performed before wars to determine if alliances were possible without language. "I think I just danced an apology to a support beam," Cole muttered, lunging to the side as the floor tilted again. "You must synchronize. With you? With everything. Everything's trying to trip me." A pulse rippled outward from their steps. The air took on a buzzing charge, and the hovering rings of Master Yellen orbited faster. "You're adapting," Aven'kai said, "even if your arms look like they're negotiating surrender." Cole swung a leg in what might have been a kick or a misdirected greeting. "This would go easier with music." "There is music." "No, like real music. Something with lyrics, a bass line, maybe a saxophone." Whip's voice chimed in through Cole's earpiece, injecting a traditional Earth rhythm to assist with compatibility alignment. Suddenly, Cole's internal comms were flooded with a jazz beat so smooth it could butter toast. He blinked, his limbs adjusting almost reflexively. "Oh no," he said, snapping his fingers mid-spin. "This is funky." "You are syncing," Aven'kai said, matching his rhythm beat for beat. And, smiling, "because for the first time today I'm not falling over." The chamber's walls flared with approval. Master Yellen hummed. "Passable. Unexpected. Deeply unconventional. You should see me in a wedding conga line." The test is not yet over. The room dimmed. Aven'kai and Cole were now surrounded by floating orbs, each one containing flickers of light that twitched with movement. "These are motion echoes," she said. "They record every step. Now we must perform a final sequence, in sync with our own past actions." "You want me to copy what I just barely survived?" "Yes, only backwards." "Oh, wonderful. Let me just rewind my dignity." They danced. They tripped. Cole smacked into a motion echo of himself and briefly time-looped a high five. Somehow, through sheer momentum and wildly improvisational footwork, they completed the sequence. The orbs dissolved. The floor stopped moving. "Trial complete," Yellen intoned. "Conclusion. Compatibility rating inefficient, improbable, and somehow functional." "I'll take it," Cole gasped, doubled over. "Does this dojo serve smoothies?" Later, after rehydrating with a drink that tasted like nostalgic waterfalls, Cole and Aven'kai walked through one of the Citadel gardens. "Not bad for a human," she said. "Not bad for an alien war priestess with moves that defy my knee joints. Tomorrow's trial is different. Less motion, more memory." "Fantastic. I'll just bring my emotional baggage and a spare pair of socks." You continue to deflect with humor, and you're starting to notice. A pause. "That's compatibility," she said. Whip buzzed over their heads. "I'm uploading footage of the dance to the Terran Council. Expect memes." Cole looked at Aven'kai. "If this ends in marriage, we'll be the only couple in history to bond over synchronized jazz combat." She nodded. "It is. Statistically unique." They watched the floating plants adjust their colors to match the conversation tone. "So," Cole said, "do I get pancakes yet?" "You get rest. Pancakes tomorrow, if you survive the next trial." "Threatening a man's breakfast is an act of war, you know? Then I suggest you sleep well, diplomat." The chamber was dark except for the pulsing lines along the floor, which traced a spiral inward like a fingerprint drawn in starlight. Cole stood at the edge of it, fidgeting with his collar and trying to look braver than he felt. "Memory trial," he muttered. "Sounds gentle, like a scrapbook with mild judgment." Whip hovered nearby, projecting a small spinning wheel labeled Cole's emotional stability, currently buffering. "Technically, this is the most invasive trial," Whip said. "If it detects emotional inconsistency, the spiral might trigger psychic feedback loops. But hey, your hair looks great. I hate how often you sound like my high school guidance counselor." "You had one of those?" "Only for a week. He transferred to cryosculpture therapy after our sessions." Aven'kai appeared from behind the veil of soft fog that always seemed to exist when dramatic moments required an entrance. She walked up beside Cole and nodded toward the spiral. This trial shows the worst and best of who you were, who you are, and what you might become. Sounds fun. Will there be popcorn? You may not want to eat during memory dissection. I never want to eat during memory dissection, especially not since the omelet incident on Io. The spiral responds to sincerity. Step lightly, think honestly, and avoid denial. Denial is my most polished defense mechanism. I keep it in a glass case labeled break during introspection. She stepped onto the spiral first. Her presence activated the lines beneath her feet, sending out a ripple of soft green light. You must walk together, she said. Our memories will blend in the center. It's not always comfortable. You know, you keep saying that about these trials, and then they keep getting less comfortable than advertised. They stepped onto the spiral together. As soon as Cole's foot touched the path, the world around him stuttered, not like a glitch, more like a breath held mid-sentence. Then suddenly, he stood in his childhood home, in the middle of his living room, surrounded by the faint echo of his parents. Well, this is awkward, he said. I haven't been here in years. It's not real, Aven'kai's voice echoed beside him, but the feelings are. The scene shifted again. Now he stood in the council dome on Earth, the day he was assigned the Vehlora mission. His face was calm in the memory, but his heartbeat, audible now in the trial, thudded like a panicked drum. You feared this mission? She asked. I feared I wouldn't be enough for it. Your record suggested confidence. My record was curated by a PR droid with an optimism algorithm. I've tripped over my own shadow in 6 different atmospheres. A ripple passed through the spiral. The memory dissolved into Aven'kai's perspective. Suddenly, he was seeing through her eyes, her people standing silent in the temple of still thought, her younger self standing in the ashes of a battlefield, a broken crystal blade in her hand. Is that my sister? She said. She died in the 5th surge. Earth drones fired without warning. We were trying to negotiate. They never said. Neither did we. We feared more hatred, more fuel. They stood in silence for a long moment as the spiral rotated beneath their feet. Then a new memory surfaced, awkward, colorful, and deeply embarrassing. Cole wearing a toga at a diplomatic party on Europa, singing karaoke to an audience of unimpressed Venusian delegates. Aven'kai blinked. This is an actual event? Sadly, yes, and I stand by my rendition of Love Me Like a Meteor Storm. She tilted her head. You sang it at full volume, with heart, with limited rhythm. The memory flickered and twisted again, this time showing the Vehlorian council chambers, where Aven'kai first proposed the marriage pact. She had rehearsed it 37 times in her mind. She had planned every word, but she hadn't expected his eyes, tired, kind, and somehow still amused. You laughed, she said, looking at him, when I gave you the offer. Not at you, he said. It was a laugh of desperation, of absurdity. It's how I breathe when I feel out of my depth. The spiral dimmed. They were now in a space that didn't exist in either of their memories. A blank room filled with floating orbs, each containing a possible version of themselves. One orb showed Cole as a hardened diplomat, cold and efficient, standing alone on Earth. Another showed him living in a Vehlorian city, smiling beside Aven'kai as children with hybrid ears ran past them. One orb showed her ruling Vehlora alone, victorious but emotionally calcified. Another showed her sitting with Cole on the roof of a shared home, watching space storms pass in silence. These are projections, she said. They're not fixed. They're kind of terrifying. They're kind of honest. Whip's voice broke through the haze. Hey, not to ruin your existential vibe, but council traffic is increasing. You've got 4 Vehlorian advisors and a Terran surveillance ship orbiting this location now. Do they know we're in the spiral? They just think you're having a particularly long date. Cole turned to Aven'kai. Are we? She looked around the glowing chamber. Perhaps a deeply uncomfortable, emotionally revealing, slightly horrifying date. I've had worse. You've been worse. Ouch. But you've also been honest. That's rare, especially among envoys. I'm rare. My last therapist said I was a cosmic contradiction wrapped in dad jokes. The spiral began pulling them back, the floor rotating beneath them, like the final act of a dance they hadn't realized they'd been performing. As they reached the edge, the light faded and the air returned to its usual shimmering calm. Cole exhaled. So, we passed? Aven'kai nodded slowly. You didn't flee. That counts. I considered it. Briefly. then remembered I'm contractually obligated to see this courtship through, and I haven't had pancakes yet. Tomorrow, she said. Pancakes. Whip spun overhead, now projecting a tiny heart made of laser beam. Trial 3 complete. Emotional integrity confirmed. Projected compatibility rising, sanity levels debatable. Cole looked at Aven'kai. If we survive these trials, what's next? Public announcement, final trial, and then the binding. That sounds final. It is. Cool. Just wanted to mentally schedule time to panic between now and then. You may panic during brunch, it's tradition. They walked back through the corridor of soft light side by side, two diplomats from opposite worlds, bound now not just by treaty, but by shared absurdity, mutual trauma, and the faint possibility of pancakes. Cole stood before the Vehlorian High Convergence, wearing robes that sparkled every time he breathed too hard. He'd already triggered 6 color shifts just by adjusting his stance, and Whip had informed him that the current hue, a throbbing fuchsia, was culturally associated with either impending union or mild digestive upset. The ambiguity didn't help. Remember, Whip said in his ear, this is being broadcast live to over 1 billion viewers across 17 systems. One misstep, and you'll be a meme before the binding even begins. Already accepted that fate, Cole muttered. Just waiting to find out if it'll be galactic husband trips on Unity carpet, or man accidentally marries alien with dramatic pause. The dais beneath his feet began to rise, revealing the full crowd. Terran delegates in tailored exosuits, Vehlorian priests hovering in low meditative orbit, and a mixed chorus of species that resembled musical instruments more than anything bipedal. Aven'kai entered from the opposite side of the convergence platform, flanked by her council. She looked every inch the High Emissary, composed, graceful, and somehow completely unbothered by the fact that she was about to psychically bond herself to someone who once tried to bribe a customs officer with cheese. Their eyes met. She raised an eyebrow. He gave a small, crooked smile. Whip made a heart shape above his head using 2 drone arms, and was immediately shushed by 6 diplomats. The officiant, an ancient being composed of light, vapor, and exactly 3 vocal cords, began the ceremony. Its voice vibrated reality slightly. Do the 2 standing before the unified council accept the binding of mind, the merging of memory, and the sharing of governance over the 3rd coalition accord? Cole took a deep breath. I do. Aven'kai followed, calm as ever. I do. The moment they spoke, the platform lit up with blue neural threads that wrapped around their hands, then twined into their temples, then shimmered outward like a firework that respected personal boundaries. Cole braced himself for some great psychic quake, the merging of 2 souls, all his thoughts laid bare, emotions crystallized and reflected, perhaps an existential flashback to his awkward teenage years. Instead, he heard a voice, her voice in his head very clearly say, if you're thinking about that pasta incident again, I swear I'll turn this bond around. He grinned, no promises. The crowd erupted into synchronized applause, which on Vehlora involved a mixture of clapping, whistling, and one species that honked in Morse code. The binding was complete. Peace, at least technically, had begun. The reception took place in the floating gardens of Vehlora under a sky pulsing with aurora drones programmed to resemble each world's most beautiful sunset. Terran representatives mingled cautiously with Vehlorians, practicing cultural phrases with the fluency of a sleep-deprived translation app. Aven'kai stood beside Cole at the head of the banquet table. You're very calm, he said, for someone who just tethered her brain to a man who owns 17 novelty socks. I already knew what you were, she said. The socks just confirmed my suspicions. He looked out at the crowd. Think this will hold? The bond or the treaty? Both. She tilted her head. The treaty has conditions. The bond has jokes. Then we're doomed. Possibly, she said, sipping a pale blue drink that sparkled like melted comets, but I've survived worse. Whip approached and projected a holographic newsfeed showing Earth headlines. Human Vehlorian Union sealed in bonding ceremony. Alliance avoids mutual annihilation. Terran diplomat makes history, and several unintentional fashion statements. Public reception is largely positive, Whip reported, except from a small extremist faction that believes you've been brainwashed by alien ear seduction. They're not wrong, Cole said. Her ears are kind of majestic. You say that like it's a surprise, Aven'kai replied. My ears are part of the diplomatic package. Later that evening, a Vehlorian delegate from one of the previously militant factions approached Cole. He bowed stiffly. "We expected you to be more serious. I expected fewer trials that involved jellyfish, but we all made sacrifices." The delegate blinked, confused. "You joke." "I do, because fear is heavy and laughter is lighter." The delegate paused, then slowly raised one hand and said, "Knock, knock." Cole froze. "Wait, is that a joke?" The delegate nodded solemnly. "We are learning." The next few weeks were a flurry of policy drafts, joint tech exchanges, and one incident involving Earth coffee being deemed a controlled substance after causing temporary precognition in Vehlorian diplomats. Cole adapted. He woke each morning with half-formed alien thoughts whispering at the edge of his consciousness, and fell asleep each night, knowing his memories now danced beside someone else's. Aven'kai adapted too. She smiled more often, subtly and always with purpose, and had begun to ask more questions about Earth customs. She requested a full dossier on sarcasm, which Cole delivered with footnotes, illustrations, and a playlist. One night, they stood on the balcony of the Citadel overlooking the shared capital. Below, humans and Vehlorians mingled. A child with shimmering skin and short human ears tossed a ball of light to another child with long Vehlorian ears and freckles. "Do you think it'll last?" Cole asked. Aven'kai didn't answer right away. "Then, if they grow up seeing each other as more than threats, then yes, that's a beginning." He turned to her. "And us? We are already in motion. Whatever we are becoming, it's started." He reached for her hand. She took it. A moment passed. Whip landed beside them and sighed audibly. "Okay, this is romantic and all, but can we talk about the fact that you still haven't addressed the pancake treaty?" Cole groaned. "I knew I forgot something." "You promised me pancakes," Whip said. "I wrote it into the Interspecies Accord. Check Clause 8. Aven'kai nodded. "It's true, you did make a vow." "Fine," Cole said. "Tomorrow morning, pancakes. Galactic unity depends on it. Flavored? Maple. With dignity." "Dignity's negotiable," Whip muttered. Cole laughed. He looked out at the sky, now filled with stars that no longer felt so far apart. He had come to Vehlora expecting war, expecting politics, expecting pressure. He hadn't expected to find someone whose mind matched his stride for stride. He hadn't expected peace to look like this, messy, strange, beautiful, and maybe, just maybe, lasting.